Welcome to the Cross the Line podcast. My name is Carlos Smith, and today's episode is sponsored by KB's Car Care on 321 North Main Street in Jonesville, South Carolina. They offer hand car wash, vacuum, and cleaning interior. Full detail is now also available. While you wait on your vehicle, customer seating is available as well as the dining area. They're open Tuesday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., so make sure you stop by. Also, today's episode is sponsored by Charlene's Home Cooking on 1136 Blackstock Road in Moore, South Carolina. Charlene's is a family restaurant that cooks like grandma with fresh veggies and meats cooked to order. You can do a meat with 2 sides, a meat with 3 sides, or a veggie plate along with sweet tea, Kool-Aid, and lemonade. Cakes, pies, and cobbler are also available for dessert. She wants you to feel at home anytime, so make sure you stop by on Monday, Thursday, and Saturday from 11 to 6, and Friday and Sunday from 11 to 7. Everything is fresh and from the heart, and she would love for you to visit. So thank you, Charlene, and thank you, KB's Car Care, for sponsoring this week's episode of Cross the Line podcast. Today I have a very special guest with me today. We exchanged some messages and finally were able to make this connection and able to sit down. She's an intake nurse and also a mental health counselor. Today I'm joined by Miss Laquinn Barrett. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. This is actually our first interview of 2021. We were supposed to have one last week, but unfortunately we were unable to do it because we had some issues. So this is actually our first interview of 2021 due to some rescheduling conflicts, but nevertheless we are here. But this is also a special interview because it's something is much needed with everything going on in the pandemic, especially with everyone getting sick, with those things going on in mental health. You know, it's a big topic, so definitely happy to have you on and join us and talk about a lot of this stuff today. But kind of starting out, how actually are you holding up during this pandemic? I know you were just telling us before we started rolling the cameras that you also had COVID at one point in time. So how have you been holding up?
It's been kind of stressful. I can't pretend that it doesn't affect me in any kind of way. Just trying to basically hold up for the community is my biggest thing, is making sure that my mind is in a good place when I go to work, because I work 3 days a week, still in a hospital setting, and also I do home health. So it's a lot on me, but I'm holding up pretty well. Was stressful having COVID-19. I can't pretend that wasn't stressful. A lot of questions and a lot of ifs, ands. But you just don't know, what can happen, and also being aware of things that can happen is the scary part with COVID-19. So
I know a lot of people, they've been saying they've been having, when you talk to different people, some people don't have symptoms, some do, with headaches or just a stuffy nose, some people can't breathe. Like, what would you say were your symptoms when you had it?
I think I had them all. I lost taste and smell. I had a lot of shortness of breath, a lot of body aches, fever, muscle aches. That was the biggest thing, was the body aches. It was very painful around day 4. And I regained taste and smell. It took about 2 weeks. So, and some people still are complaining that they don't have taste and smell. So it just varies from person to person. Some are symptomatic, some are not. You just never know. So it's a scary disease process at this point, just not knowing what could happen. And
is it anything that you can take for it, or is it just something like you had to let it just run its course?
Before I was confirmed positive, they treated my symptoms, which they treated it like an upper respiratory infection. So I did have an antibiotic, and I had several inhalers due to the induced asthma part of it. But otherwise, they told me it would just have to run its course.
Now, is it true that, because I'm not sure, like I always say, for me, I really don't know what to make of the pandemic. I definitely believe it's real, but it's just like you hear some people test positive, some people test negative when they have the symptoms. So, to me, it's just like, how do you, I'm trying to figure out how to word it, but how do we take these precautions? Like, what are the precautions that you guys have to take when you're at work?
Definitely wear a mask. When it first started, we didn't have to wear it, so much. It wasn't mandatory at first. And then it became mandatory, and then it became a certain kind of mask had to be mandatory. So now we're up to wearing surgical masks, and depending on if we have confirmed positive, we have to wear the N95. Definitely washing your hands, hand sanitizer in between washing hands, touching different things. But I wash my hands until they're raw. But basically washing your hands and staying, 6 feet apart as much as you can in a hospital setting. Unfortunately, being a nurse, you have to be, in your patient's personal space. So you just do the best you can and try to stay clean.
Is there any way, is it true that you can, even once you have it once before, can you catch it again, or are you not sure? Like, what did the doctors tell you about it?
I was told it would be a slim chance of me catching it again, but that I could catch it again, but that I had 30 to 90 days immunity, meaning that my body had, since it had been exposed to the virus, that antibodies built up in my immune system, and so that would help me fight against getting it again, but it would be a slim chance. But of course, that's not anything that I ever want to experience again, so I act as if I've never had it.
Right, and it's, of course, like you said, you come in contact with a lot of people every day, so it's
Correct.
Take a high chance. And also, I want to ask you, some of your responsibilities, talk to people and let them know, like, some of the responsibilities that you have as an intake nurse and also as a mental health counselor.
When a patient first arrives in a hospital setting in our facility, which is a mental health facility, I'm usually one of the first faces that they see. They come in, they get registered, and depending on how they were brought in, a lot of times they're brought in by the police or by ambulance because they've been committed to our facility, meaning that they are on paperwork by the state, so they've been brought in and it's mandatory that they get help. With that being said, they have to be assessed. They have to have an assessment by myself or one of the other counselors to basically pinpoint what's going on and to get them to the best unit in our facility, because we have several different parts of our facility, ranging from diagnosis from depression, suicide, and also we have detox in our facility. So basically getting them to the best part to pinpoint the best treatment plan for them is our goal. That's mainly my goal. And then I communicate what I think with our physicians, and then we communicate to figure out where they should go from there.
How did you actually, I want to ask this at the beginning, but I know when you tell me about COVID, I just want to jump to that.
Mm-hmm.
But how did you actually get into this field? Like, what made you want to choose this career?
I got into psych mental health about 8 years ago. I used to work at Generations Boys Home as a PRN emergency call nurse, and I just loved it. I loved being at the boys' home. I loved being around the boys and just getting to know them, getting to know their background. They were kind of labeled as criminals in that particular facility. But the more I got to know them, I realized that, the beginning to the end of how they ended up being there, and that a lot of times it just was not their fault. That a lot of times it was through traumatic experience that they had landed in that particular facility to be basically locked in. So it became more of a ministry than anything.
Mm-hmm. And so, is it hard when you see those type of things with those young men, or even at the hospital? Is it hard not to, bring that stuff home with you because you see so much every day?
Some days it is very hard because, number one, it could be your own family members, and so you have to think about that. And when I take care of any patients, I think of them as if it was my family member, because I would want someone to take care of my family member the same way. So yeah, some days I come home, it's pretty rough, and sometimes I do have to step out and maybe cry or have my own little moment, but it gets rough at times.
Do you find yourself as speaking of family members, do you find yourself like as the go-to person, being in the field you're in and talking about mental health? Do you find yourself as like kind of sometimes the go-to person for people in your family to come to when they have issues and whatever they're going through, whether it's depression or anything else? Are you kind of like that go-to person for them?
Sometimes I am. I'm the jokester in my family. I crack a lot of jokes because I don't get much time off.
Right.
So when I see my family, I like to have a good time. So
Why do you think mental health, to me it seems like maybe over the past, I want to say maybe 3 to 5 years, it seems like it's being talked about more now, like about people having mental health issues and things like that. But why do you feel like now it's being talked about a lot more often than it was in the past?
a lot of the superstars, I would say, more of your celebrities are coming out more about mental illness, and I think that's the bigger picture, that it's not, everyone used to be sort of labeled as just crazy.
Right.
And so now, we have a lot more research, and we can say that someone has an actual diagnosis now instead of just saying that they're crazy. But a lot of celebrities are coming out saying, hey, I have certain things going on also with my mental health. And so, they're all in the media and they talk about it now. Taraji P. Henson, she just launched a mental health. She's kind of doing what you're doing with a podcast and a live show. So it's becoming, more accepted. I would say more accepted in society.
I was guilty of that for a while too, because for so long, like when I was younger, I would think like when athletes come out and speak about it, or maybe like somebody would kill themselves, like, man, they got all this money, like, why are they doing this? Like, what are they going through? Like, they don't, I would trade places with them anytime, but you never, like you said, you never know, like money, like as I started reading and educating myself even more, it's like money doesn't solve all your problems anyway.
It doesn't.
And it's just like, sometimes it magnifies me, like you never know what these people are going through, like family, because they have all this money, they have access to a lot of different things, family goes to them a lot more wanting things, and you never know how that affects their mind.
Right, you never know.
But what do you think impacts how do you think that the pandemic has impacted these people, everybody's mental health in a particular way?
It's been rough with not being able to see people. A lot of people, rely on that social atmosphere to, enjoy themselves, have that as a outlet, getting with family. The holidays were difficult this year. A lot of people had to, pretty much figure out what they were doing. Even myself, we didn't have a big Thanksgiving this year like we normally do. Christmas was a little bit smaller, but we had to social distance and just be on our P's and Q's. So, whereas we used to have huge family gatherings and all of my family would get together or stop by my mom's and different things, it was kind of depressing not being able to see your older family members, especially to kind of cherish that time with them, especially during these hard times.
And that's the one thing I was like, I hope we don't kind of get away from.
Right.
It's just like, with the social distancing, it's like you don't want to be away from your family, but now it's kind of like, now there's people like, I don't want to be around you right now because I don't know what's going on. And I just hope for people, like, I think for kids, for them it may seem normal because they haven't been around as long, but for adults, like, we know this is not normal to, like being distant and away from family members. So I definitely see how it can be depressing, but I just hope like this doesn't become like the new norm and people just like this. And for me, like I said in the previous interviews as well, like I just like the face-to-face interaction, doing sit-down interviews like this instead of like virtual, because it's not, to me it's not the same. It's like you don't get a chance to sit down and build with these people and build these relationships and have great conversations. Like when you're doing it online, like you can have all these technical issues and anything like that, and it doesn't feel the same. Like you don't feel that same energy as when you're face to face with these people. But are they saying anything, like, are you hearing anything from doctors, anybody, like how long this could potentially play out?
I mean, the vaccine is, I think, becoming a little more popular now because it's probably it's our only hope, rather. It's a hope that, this will become, I say, under control. because it's a lot going on. It's a high death rate. It's affecting a lot of communities. It's affecting everybody in the United States at this point. I think everybody's just riding the roller coaster. We really don't know. From day to day, everything's different with research and findings, and of course the media and what you hear, and that affects everything. So I think everybody's just riding the wave right now, just hoping and praying that this can get under control and we can get back to a normal life.
Speaking of the vaccine, like I really don't know how to feel about it, and I'll let you know what I think about it in a second. But how do you feel as far as like the vaccine? Do you think it's, because I know a lot of people they're skeptical about it. They don't know. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I know some people think depopulation and all those type of things. But how do you feel about like the vaccine?
Today was my first dose, like an hour ago. So, I feel it's our last resort. I mean, I feel it's our only hope. So I've had the virus. I can actually see how if someone, didn't have the immune system or wasn't as strong as I was, I could see how you could die from it, because it was certain days where I felt that I would die from it. I say day 4 or 5, I was very skeptical about whether or not I was going to make it. So I had feared my kidneys shutting down and different things that went on during that process. So I feel like I'd rather you have the shot than the virus at this point. It's very dangerous.
Here's my thing with the vaccine. I don't mind people taking the vaccine. I just don't want it to be mandatory. Like you must take the vaccine. Like that's where I'm kind of like iffy. Like why do we have to take this vaccine? Like because like I said, it's still, to me, this is still brand new.
Yeah.
And it's like you hear different information, all type of things. I remember last year they were saying about the summertime, the heat would kill it and all this stuff, and it's still around. And then on top of that, we hearing things about like it's a new strain now. So if it's a new strain now, is this vaccine gonna cure the new strain, or like how does that work? That's why I'm kind of like iffy. And I'm not telling people not to take it. And for me, I'm not against it. I just don't want it to kind of like be mandatory. That's where I'm kind of iffy on it. It's like as far as them saying like these jobs saying, yeah, you must take
have
this.
You have a job. Yeah. I don't know if it'll become mandatory. Honestly, the flu shot is not mandatory at this point, but people still get the flu and die from the flu. So I think everybody just has to make their own judgment, especially if you have an existing condition or something that this virus could take you out. Then I think it would be a better chance, or your best results will probably be from getting the vaccine. Because
I definitely think it's something real. Because like I said, I've had family that has it, that have had it in the past, but it's just I don't know. Plus, part of me is like, I don't really like messing with needles anyway, and those different type of things like this. So you said you already had 1 dose already. Is it something you have to take more than once? Or?
Yeah, your second dose is 21 days. So your first dose, my first dose is today. So in 21 days, I'll go back and get my second dose, and then that'll be it.
What are they saying about it? Is it supposed to have any kind of like symptoms,
side effects? Some people had some flu-like symptoms. They were saying like, allergic reaction type things, shortness of breath, itching, and they did Benadryl and they were fine. It seemed like everybody did fine today where I was located at Greenwood Memorial. So they said everyone's done great at Greenwood Memorial. I haven't heard anything that I hate to say that the media, of course,
absolutely,
is gonna, if one person dies, then it's gonna be 20. That's just how the media is. They have to blow things out of proportion because that's their job.
Yeah, that's one of the things. Like I try not to watch the news so much because it's depressing. And I remember one of my friends on Facebook said something the other day where they don't really watch it a lot either. And I just commented. I told them, one of the things my teacher always told us in my media class, if it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah.
So anything that's negative, it's always going to be the first thing that's like in the headlines.
Definitely.
So I just like, I try not to like let the news and all that stuff kind of consume me so much, because if you do, like, you'll really end up a lot of times like looking like, man, the world is really like a bad place. But when you really get outside, it's not as bad as, of course, anywhere you go is gonna be bad things happening, but like just paying attention to the news, you probably want to stay in your house for the next
In a
couple,
bubble.
until this thing really blows over, if it, until they can get it under control. One more thing about the vaccine though, at the hospital, are they making it mandatory for you guys to take a vaccine, or is it something like this your choice?
Right
Because you actually
now,
interact with a
it's
lot of
our
people.
choice, but it's being encouraged. At first, when the pandemic started, we didn't have many cases that were, positive COVID-19 cases in our facility, because we take a lot of outpatient and we do inpatient. And so now we're starting to have more and more confirmed cases. So they're encouraging us to get it. They've made it available to us. We can register to get it at Grimm Memorial. So it's up to us to take advantage of it at this point. Eventually it may become mandatory, but for now it's not mandatory, but it's highly recommended.
What are some of the things I wanted to ask you? This also is when you have a lot of patients that come in, besides with COVID right now, like and working with people in health issues. What are some of the main things that you see? Some of the health issues that you see with a lot of people when they come in to see you guys.
They come in with us all for mental health. It's all mental health. But if they do have COVID symptoms, we've experienced, what I've seen is a lot of shortness of breath, especially if they were already asthmatic, COPDers are struggling to breathe. If they're too distressed, we send them to all medical facility, because we're all mental health. And so, but mentally, the depression, suicide rate has gone up terribly during this time.
What do you do, like, for your mental health? Like, what do you do to kind of like protect your mental health and stay with like a positive attitude? Because in your field, I can absolutely see how it's much needed to, maybe get some kind of break or do something to kind of relieve yourself. Because I can definitely see how it's stressful with everything going on. Even out before the pandemic, dealing with people and their issues then, but especially now with so much going on. Like, what do you do to try to protect your mental health?
I was a traveler, so this is really been getting me down and out, being right here only in the United States. But I've been doing some local travel, social distancing when I do some local travel, going up to places like Asheville and different places local. I'm a shopaholic, shop online.
I know when we were traveling, when we went to Tennessee, we was in Chattanooga. To down there, they seemed like COVID there, and when we went to Jacksonville, it just seemed like COVID didn't even exist. Because
It didn't exist, yeah.
it was like
Heavy populated areas, I can't hang out.
oh man, it was just like people didn't care, and like I was saying before we started, it's like a lot of people just don't like you to tell them what to do. So they're gonna be defiant, man. They were just walking in stores, anywhere around, like no kind of mask or anything like that. Well, what do you think makes people so depressed today? And I want to attack this kind of like a social media standpoint. How do you think social media impacts that today?
We have something that we call false outlook with mental health. I guess it would be more or less like if I'm looking at all the good things you're doing on social media, like you have your podcast, you travel all over the place. If I'm stuck in the house, I'm sitting and looking at your page like, dang, Carlos having a good time. And I'm stuck in the house. Yeah, but that's just, like you say, false. It just looks like you're having a good time. And it's so easy to compare your life to other people's life when you basically need to be thankful for the good things that you do have going on in your own life. But that's easy to say than to do. We sit on social media and we look at all the good things that some people are doing, and we just wish that we were doing that. But
Right.
you just never know what
Yeah.
people have going on in real life. They may be posting because they wish they had all that stuff going on, or they may have that stuff going on, may not be happy. You just never know.
But
Everybody's situation is
Right. I
different.
was gonna say deep down inside, a lot of times those people that post all those things like they're happy or living their best life, a lot of times some of those are the people that's hurt the most.
They may be hurting the most, maybe
Absolutely.
lonely.
And we do have a good time. We try to travel, but of course we still have to take the necessary precautions. And I always say, even with the podcast,
Scary.
like it looks fun, which it is. We have a great time, but it's still a lot of work. It's just not just popping up and just shooting something. Like it takes a lot of time and effort and research
Yeah.
to do these things. But social media to me is one of the biggest downfalls. And sometimes I've even caught myself at times where I will look like, man, this such and such look like
They haven't evolved.
yeah, but man, sometimes I remember I had a friend at one time before was telling me, you know, a situation with their boyfriend or whatever, and just saying that she didn't think it was gonna work out. Next thing you know, I actually seen her like posting them, you know, online, like living their best life. It's like a lot of times these people put on these fronts just for social media.
Right.
Exactly. But what else you think is something else that kind of triggers this mental health and depression?
Especially being away from people. Some people, you know, don't have many family members, or, you know, the only kind of relief they had was visiting family members. And so now with COVID, they have to stay home and they don't have as many places to go. Whereas they used to probably get together with friends and have big dinners and things like that, and maybe go out to different party atmospheres. They can't do that anymore. So that's causing a lot of people to be depressed. Online schooling has depressed a lot of students. Seeing a big increase in children come in, and mainly it's because of COVID. Online school has them depressed. They're not able to see their friends. And some people, you know, a lot of kids, kids don't drive and have all that access. A lot of the younger kids don't. And so that was the only way they could see their friends was at school. And so now they're in different types of online school, and it's very depressing for them. A lot of grades have, you know, plunged, gone way down, like from A students to making Fs now. So it's impacting a lot.
Speaking of school and the young kids, like, is there a particular age group that you say you see more often than others when they come in?
Teenagers.
Teenagers.
And a lot of it is social media driven.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, feeling like the kids are living their best life, and
Social media, it's
yeah.
a powerful drug. It's beauty in it, but then it's an ugly side of it as well. You just have to use it the proper way.
Right.
What advice do you have for people with with mental issues or they facing depression? Like, what are some like basic steps that you would give them and tell them to do like on a daily?
First thing we do is take their phone.
That would help a lot, a whole lot.
Having access to Facebook, Instagram, different things like that, it's just not what they need at the time. They basically need to focus on a treatment plan, getting better, focusing on, you know, what's the problem, what's the root of the issue. So if you're caught up in, you know, that may be your problem. The person on social media may be one of the triggers, may be the problem. So that's the first thing we do is take the phone. And then people, you know, that's living in the world, they need to just log off.
Right.
Take time off, take time away from it if it affects you in that negative way. So that's one of the main things. And, you know, learning to adapt to new activities. I mean, I've had to do that during this pandemic. I've had a chance to read and do different things whereas I used to run, and now I'm working from home 2 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
So I have time to focus on myself and do things that I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Self-care, I think that's going to be 2021.
That's the best thing.
Yeah.
Because like you said, I know a lot of people. The first thing they do when they wake up, they gonna check their phone.
Check your phone, yeah.
And it's just like you really have to be mindful of like what you feed and put in your spirit, because if not, man, it'll eat you up.
Right.
So and I actually did that. It was one of the things I had when I had my own phone. You know, a lot of people when they first open their phone up, they have all the apps they use like right on the front of it. So one of the tricks that I did was I deleted it off the front of my phone, so I would have to kind of scroll through my menu.
That's a good idea.
So when I did that, it triggered in my mind like, do I really need to get on? Yeah.
Right.
So because I know like people want to get to something as quick as they can.
Right.
So that was one of the things that I did, because it was like, man, it would just drive me crazy. And then when you wake up early in the morning and you see somebody share a sad story or something, like it'll just put you in a bad mood. So that's why I try so much to kind of like stay away from this stuff, because man, it's like it's too much stuff going on. I would love to see people post more positive stuff online,
things, right.
but you know, a lot of times that type of stuff doesn't get the attention. It's always something like feeding something negative,
right.
and it'll just eat you away. But do you guys have a hotline, or is there any kind of hotline where people can use to where if they're facing some kind of issue and they need somebody to talk to? Is there a hotline?
Definitely. The best way I say it is pretty fast, 235-2335. But yeah, 864-235-2335. You can get the Carolina Center 24 hours a day. You'll reach one of our counselors first, and we'll basically do a sheet to figure out what the problem is, an intake call sheet to make an appointment to get you to the best place that you are. Of course, if it's an emergency, we'll have you someone call 911, even if it's us.
I think, you know, when I asked that question because I know they came to us, it was a situation at another location where it was a gentleman, he actually killed himself on the job. And after that, they came to us and said, you know, if you need to talk to somebody, here's this hotline. And instead of waiting for something like that to happen with these jobs, I definitely should feel like more jobs should have something where, because a lot of times, a lot of people, they don't really like what they're doing. It's just like, you know, they're doing it, you know, to make a living.
Right.
And sometimes you go in, you have a bad day. Somebody might say something out of the way to you. Like, you never know what people are going through. That's why I'm always mindful of how I treat people, which I never disrespect anybody anyway. But it's always because you never know what somebody's going through. So I definitely feel like more jobs should all jobs should have something to where if you need someone to talk to, like they have some kind of hotline or something, because like it's so much stuff going on. Like that gentleman I was just saying, like he said he went in, and next thing I guess he just had like one of those moments, and in the parking lot he took his own life. So I was like, how do you feel about it? Do you think that's something more jobs should make mandatory or something?
Definitely some type of counseling, some type of outpatient therapy should be readily available. We do have a good, pretty good contract with BMW, Verizon. Those places, they pretty much tell them if they have a breakdown, anxiety attack, different types of anger management, things like that, they do refer them to us a good bit. I can say that about BMW and Verizon.
Who would you say you go to, when you need someone to talk to? Because all day you pretty much have to hear what other people are going through, and they tell you all this stuff. And I know it's a lot to take in, and like I said, I know when you hearing some things that are not like great news all the time, it's like it can eat away at you. So who do you say you go to when you need to clear your mind and put yourself in a better mood?
I can call my mama. She's behind you.
All right. Hey, Mom.
Big support system. My dad, I talk to him on the way to work majority of the time. We have our little time on our way to work from 3 to about 2:30 to 3:15, because I'm always late anyway. But yeah, and I pray a lot. I go to church. Shout out to Macedonia. My pastor, I have a great pastor, Dr. Keith McDaniel. You can talk to him anytime.
What other things off the top of your mind do you think can be implemented? Like I say, I know you said the hotline. What other things do you say can be implemented for depression? Like, is there anything off the top of your mind that you think also could like help lower depression?
Well, a lot of my friends that are running different agencies now, of course, I've networked with different agencies, and they're all about having workshops, more awareness. Because like you said, it's been a big stigma in society, and everyone, especially in the Black community, has just labeled people as crazy. And so now the awareness is coming out with different diagnoses to educate the community on what's really wrong with this person, instead of saying, oh, well, they're just this or they're just that. And so a lot of mental health diagnosis comes from trauma. And so getting to the bottom of everything, awareness is very big now in a lot of different agencies, and people are just beginning to talk about it.
How do you diagnose, like, how can you tell that somebody is like battling depression or something? Like, is it one particular thing, or do you just sit and wait and listen to their story to say, okay, you definitely have something going on? How do you diagnose it?
I think sometimes appearance can be a factor if you knew that person previously. But with my job, a lot of times, of course, I don't know anyone that comes in, so I have to dig. Sleeping patterns, changing sleeping habits, changing eating habits, changing appearance if you knew how they looked up until now. A lot of those factors play into, come to play with depression. So a lot of times though I have to dig, especially with men, because men see it as being weak.
Right.
And society has made men feel like, you shouldn't cry. You shouldn't to be depressed. You should be able to handle this. You're a man, stay strong. You don't have time to be weak. You have a family, you have to take care of your priorities. But a lot of times when men come in, they're at the end of their road because they didn't handle the problem early on. So
is it tougher to deal with men? I guess in the sense that women, because like you said, men are, have to provide and protect. A lot of times, like you said, you have to. When you say men thought like, if you cry, then you're showing a sign of weakness. But a lot of times when you need to, let those emotions out.
right.
And for me, I don't, I don't know. For me, I'm the type of person, like I see things, but like I kind of like hold a lot of stuff in. Like I don't like really express myself a lot.
Right.
And I mean, I've had moments where I've shed tears and I cried, but a lot of times, for the most part, for me, I'm just like, I guess it's just like life happens, and I'm just trying to keep on going. Yeah. But sometimes I do need to step back and kind of like reflect and do things like that as well. But like you said, a lot of times as men, you just want to like stay strong for your family and hold the fort down. But at times, you still need that go-to person as well. Right. So is it tougher to get that out of men in those situations?
Very tough. It takes me a little longer. Sometimes hours at a time.
I just look at women as like nurturers, and like I guess women are just always more emotional anyway than men in these situations. So I guess they're easy to like more pour it out of. Like as far as like from a teenage standpoint, are kids more like when they come in? How are they? Are they just like an open book? Like they just tell you all the information?
Not all the time, especially if the parents are present. They don't want to let their parents down. That's the biggest thing you see with teenagers is, them basically trying to hide different things, especially with them coming into their own and figuring out life and what they want to be, and they just don't want to disappoint the parents. So sometimes they hide what's going on until we get them, on the floor where we can actually get them alone and figure out what's really going on with them.
I feel like I always said I feel like that's a tough spot for kids because, like you said, you don't want to let your parents down. Right. So you're kind of like doing the things that they want you to do instead of like what you truly want to do in those situations. So how are those conversations though? Do you sit the child down with the parent, or do you separate them and talk to them? And are the parents more acceptable to it when you talk to them afterwards? Like, how do those kind of conversations normally go?
I usually ask, do you want your parent present or not? Majority of the time at first, of course, they have to have depending on the age, have to have the parent present. But eventually, if I see that the child's very uncomfortable not opening it up, I'll ask the child and the parent, do you mind, ask the parent, do you mind stepping out? And a lot of times they say, no, I don't mind stepping out because maybe you can get something out of them that I can't. And that's usually, how it goes. And I usually can get something out of the child that the parent can. Because like you said, they don't want to let the parent stand embarrassed, and they don't want to say how they really feel in front of the parent. So a lot of times I'll just ask them to step out.
Do you ever feel like is there ever a point where you may feel like you let someone down, or you what you could have done more for a patient? Do you have those type of moments, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, it's a lot of times. Sometimes you take some patients, I say taking it home with you, and you think, did I do that right, or should I have done this, or should I have done that? Especially when you have a patient that's, that comes in and they promise you that, they'll be back for outpatient, and then they don't show up. You're like, should I have made them an inpatient, or should I have asked more questions? So yeah, a lot of times when that happens, I do feel like I didn't do my job, or I should have did more.
How did you actually do? Well, I'm gonna ask you this first. Do you feel like this is your true calling? Like working in this field, and talking to people and trying to get them through depression. Do you feel like this is like your true calling?
I definitely do feel like this is my calling. I've seen some pretty good success stories. I've had some patients, come back to the facility to say thank you, or to let me know that they were doing well, or or if they have to come back again, that they came because they knew I would be there.
Right.
So,
and I know this got to be a good feeling when people want to come looking just for you, because you've been so helpful for them on their journey. Just a few more questions, and then we'll get ready to wrap it up. What's the biggest lesson and I've been asking everybody this while we were on our self-investment tour, like, what's the biggest lesson you've learned throughout this pandemic?
Family is very important. People are important. It's important to enjoy people, because you don't know, maybe here today, gone tomorrow. That's the biggest thing I've learned. Being present in the moment, like you say, putting the phone to the side, take your pictures, but enjoy your family, because you just never know.
Absolutely. What's the best advice you say you've received, like not just right now in this moment, like just overall, like some of the best advice that you feel like you received in your career?
To treat every patient like a family member.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best thing. And I go in with that mindset, like no matter what's going on. And I've had some irate patients, so I've just had to step away, regroup, and just remember that there's they are somebody, they're somebody's parent, they're somebody's child. Just to think of that patient at that moment, to give them my undivided attention.
I know this got to be hard sometimes too, when people want to lash out.
Yes.
And I know sometimes you just want to speak your mind, but
Right.
like they're in there for a reason.
Right.
So I know that's definitely got to be tough, because
Right.
we deal with people like this sometimes also, like when they come in, especially when they think they're right, like you can't tell me wrong. And it's just like, man, sometimes you just have to kind of like hold it in, even though you really want to.
Right.
Actually, this is crazy also. I had something happen to me a couple of days ago. I actually went to the store and parked beside this car, and I was just sitting in my car after I left out of Target. Mm-hmm. And this lady, she actually she was trying to put some chairs in her car, and she said, I think she was with her daughter or somebody. She was like, I could try to get these car heads, this jerk right here will move his car. So she was talking about me. And I think she probably didn't think I heard what she was saying, but I was just sitting in my car. So at first I was like, you know what, I'm gonna sit here even longer and just wait here. But then I was like, you know what, it's not even worth it.
Right.
'Cause I do a lot of reading, and one of the things I just read a lot of books, and it just helps me out a whole lot.
Right.
So, you know, and one of the things, like I said, mentioned in the past, like the 4 agreements, is like don't take anything personal.
Right.
So before I pulled off, like I heard her, so I was getting ready to pull off. I just rolled down my window. I just said, you know, have a nice day, ma'am. And then I just rolled up, pulled off, you know, because at first I was like, at first it made me mad, but I was like,
Yeah.
you know what, it's not even worth it, because
Right.
I can say something now, but then later on I'm like, you know, man, was it even really worth saying that to that lady? Because you never know what she's going through, and for me, that's not even my personality, you know, to kind of like tear anyone down anyway. So I was like, you know, I'm just gonna go ahead and let it slide. But you know, it's stuff that happens to me too. So,
Right.
but my final 2 questions: what are some goals that you have for the new year, or long term, some goals that you may have?
Definitely want to enhance my career with mental health. Basically staying healthy. That's my biggest goal for 21, as I cannot get coronavirus ever again.
I know.
But just learning to basically focus on the career, and I'm still learning as far as with the intake nurse. I've only been in this role about 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
So it's different. It's a lot to learn. Like you say, I'm the first face. So it's very important.
How did you get into that role? Is it something by choice, or is it something like they just referred?
I was asked to help out, just help out in that area in the hospital. And my manager at the time, she said, you know, you're very good at this. Are you interested in a position? But there was no position at first, so I had to wait until one came open, and then they offered it to me. So.
Because I could tell you were very friendly person. Even when we walked in, like you were really friendly.
Yeah.
Now tell me again, where are you originally from? Because I was like, I know, like just listen to you talk, I can tell that like you are not from here. Like, where do you say you were from?
I'm from here. My mom is from Jamaica, and my dad's from Union. And they met one summer in New Jersey.
Okay.
And and my dad married my mom in, was it 3 months or 3 weeks?
7 months.
7 months, excuse me, 7 months. And
True love.
my daddy moved my mama to Union, and then they had me 2 years later. So
Married 40 years.
they've been married 40 years. Yes, 40 years. Goals.
That's definitely, that's definitely a blessing. Like you said, for your mom and your parents to still be here, that's definitely a true blessing. Like I said, even during this pandemic, we had death in our family. My uncle I had saw right before we went to Atlanta for an interview, and 2 days later he passed away.
So sorry.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like I said it a couple of interviews already. It was just crazy because he's from here, from Spartanburg, and you know he lived out in Texas with his wife, and then he came back to see everybody, and you know he was making his rounds, going to see everyone, and I saw him that Wednesday. He was telling me how everything was going. I was getting ready to head to Atlanta to shoot an interview, and shot the interview. Saw him Wednesday. We went and shot the interview Thursday in Atlanta, and then Friday he died. So it was just like boom, 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 like back to back. It was crazy. So it was like, man, you never know. So definitely have to cherish those moments. When your parents are still here, that's a blessing. So I'll tell anybody, make amends with anybody also, because it's not worth it. Whatever it is, even if somebody might owe you some money or anything, like petty stuff, don't let this stuff get in the way, because like in the end, like, you know, stuff happens. Like I said, we like death in the family, like those things are unexpected. Like you may think you're gonna see this person again, and the next thing you know, it's in the blink of an eye.
Can't take it with you.
Absolutely.
Can't take all the money with you. Can't take everything with you.
Absolutely. So my final question, this is another one that we ask everybody on the podcast that's been coming while we were on our tour. Also, what does self-investment mean to you?
It goes back to self-care for me. Taking time out to make sure, you know, mental health, physical health, make sure all those things are intact. On my days off, I focus on myself a lot. I go to different spas. I go to, get my nails, hair, all that stuff. I make sure all that stuff is done on my days off. I don't answer the phone in the mornings. That may make some people mad. But on my days off, I usually start answering calls or finishing up calls for work. However, I usually start about 11:30, 12. So that's just my time to reflect.
That's the best way. I would tell anybody that also. I'm not an expert, so make sure you guys definitely listen to her. But for me, just waking up in the morning, like I do my daily reading now, working out. You just have to do stuff that's gonna feed your mind. Positive things. One of the things I posted was like 2021 will be a great year this year, which I truly believe that.
Right.
But it's all perspective, like how you look at things. Like if you just think it's gonna be a bad year, even if you look at last year, a lot of great things happened for a lot of people. But it's those certain points where bad things happen where people just say the whole 2021 was a negative year, like a terrible year. But it's just all about perspective. You just gotta find something that you enjoy doing. Take care of yourself.
Right.
One of the things I always hear, like if you can't take care of yourself, you won't be any good for anybody else anyway. So definitely invest in yourself. That's what this podcast is all about. A positive platform. Trying to encourage people. To invest in yourself. Because at the end of the day, like I said, if you're no good for yourself, like you won't be able to help anybody else. Like at a job, like I said, we call it more than a job, because if something happens to you, they just gonna replace you. So while you here on earth, you might as well just do what you enjoy doing while you can, because one minute you here, then next thing you know, the only thing that's guaranteed is death.
Right.
So I always tell people that. But Miss Barrett, I want to thank you again for joining us today. This was a great interview to start 2021. We needed to talk about this because, mental health, like I said, was something that's definitely huge right now. And it needs to be talked about because for so long that people, had a lot of things going on and they didn't talk about it. So they just let all this stuff get built up to a point where, they do something terrible. But I want to thank you. Before we get out of here, can you tell everyone where to find you? And also, would you leave people with a little bit of advice?
Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, I'm at the Carolina Center, 2700 East Phillips Road. It's in Greer. We're off Highway 14. Like I said, I'm there from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m., but we're open 24 hours a day. Best advice is to take care of yourself and make sure that your mind is in a good place.
Absolutely. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please take care of yourself. This is 2021. We promise you this will be a great year. Just invest in yourself, chase your dreams, and always support your people when they're doing something encouraging. Don't focus on the negative. You watch the media, watch the news. Don't let this stuff consume you because there's so much stuff going on. But things will get better. It's just all about having a positive mind and just pushing yourself to continue to do better. So until next time, keep chasing your dreams. Hope you guys enjoyed this. This is Cross the Line Podcast. Till next time, thank you for listening.
My name is Laquinn Barrett, and I'm an intake nurse at Carolina Behavioral Health, and I'm tuned in with Cross the Line Podcast.